The Christmas naughty list. Are you on it?
Fun. Today's going to be fun because it turns out Valve are using Christmas to nuke the naughty with bans. Activision have also got their lovely battles with a few US government agencies coming to an end in a way that's decently expensive. Ooh. Microsoft, they have very much missed the boat. They are not getting Baldur's Gate 3 on Game Pass. It's kind of hilarious. We've actually seen their internal estimates for the game, and yeah, they are so goddamn out of touch. It is very funny, but I suppose much like that time I heard of the guy who passed on Dead Cells for his publisher, yeah, I've kind of got the feeling that's a costly mistake that they'll actually learn. And also, a critically acclaimed indie studio is shutting its doors this year, but it's got one last Christmas present to give to everybody. Valve are getting festive. The Frost of Us update is out for Dota 2, and they've brought in the patch notes as well as some fun seasonal treats.
So we get Grievals? Is that what we get? Grieval couriers again?
So, if you've been good all year in Dota 2, right, and you've kept your behavior score high, because yes, they do have a behavior score.
Yeah, my behavior score while I was playing was not great, not gonna lie. It wasn't my fault!
Then you're going to get a bunch of rewards in the form of free gifts. But for those who haven't, well, you're going to be getting a little bit of a different situation. Perhaps you raged a little bit during the year. Maybe that knocked your score. Maybe you were a little bit of a naughty smurf.
I'm just gonna say this, okay? How is it fair that I can't rage on someone who's 0-20 as a carry and he had a free lane? Why can't I rage on that? Tell me. I want an explanation.
Well,
and how is that person in the top 5% of the player base? Tell me that, and I want an explanation.
Was a mistake, and your account may be in jeopardy. Especially for the smurfing, because this is actually following Valve banning 90,000 game accounts for smurfing back in September.
Wow.
And there are ongoing ban waves for that.
Rip at least 20 Artesia accounts, I guess.
Very same thing that has been happening ever since. Basically, they're just trying to be really proactive, trying to make sure that Dota 2 is actually an overall healthy scene. Because, yeah, I mean, come on, playing a multiplayer game and, like, ratings aren't working because people are smurfing, it is literally the worst, and it chews up new players.
I talked about this. Smurfing actually is a way bigger problem than people understand because it impacts the system. Let me give you the quick rundown, right? Every tier of MMR, be it, I don't know, 1 to 50, 1 to 200, 500 to 1000, and so on, has a certain expectancy tied to it. And this is why smurfing is bad, because smurfing breaks that expectancy. If enough people come in, get themselves to X MMR, and, well, the X MMR prediction is that, you know, you're going to do this, your average GPM is going to be like 350, and then some kind of guy comes in who's smurfing. Now, and he's not the top 1% of player base. So, the smurfing system is not gonna find this person, because if let's say you have 1,500 MMR, you're better than the people with 1,000 MMR on average always, probably. But you're not so better that the system recognizes you as a smurf. So when you get in those 1,000 MMR games and you outperform people, you boost the system's expectancy for what this MMR should look like. Okay? So, if enough people smurf and do this, then the 1000 MMR is closer to 1500 MMR now. Which means that creates a whole lot of imbalanced games. That is the problem with smurfing. And this effect proactively, in turn, has a slight effect on all the MMR before it. That is the problem with smurfing. It completely ruins over time game balance.
But what's happened is, following the International, they've got some fun feedback for their pros. They were basically having problems with the fact that it was an open secret that some pros could just do whatever the hell they wanted and never really face consequences for doing any of that, which obviously is not fair. We've got massive ban waves, regular to people being nuked because, yeah, they're smurfing, they're breaking the rules, but pros, they just get to do it. Valve have agreed that criticism is actually fair. They say they already know that this stuff's been going on because they've been analyzing...
Oh shit, there's actually repartizi in 20 of his accounts that are rank 1.
All the data, and they have a fair idea of those who have been smurfing, but also when they've done other questionable things, basically in order to try to get around Valve's behavior score system. So, yes, the watchful eye of Gabe, or more accurately, people who are being employed by Gabe, yeah, it's fallen down on them. The rules should apply to everybody, and from now on they will, and smurfing isn't even the only naughty thing players are getting up to. Amongst other questionable choices, some bad actors are playing like jerks, ruining games, and losing behavior score because of it, then hiring behavior score farmers to drive it back up. So, isn't that lovely? You may, in fact, have a lovely, polite game with somebody who's just an absolute star, and it turns out they are being paid to increase somebody's behavior rating because that person has just been really toxic. Again, that is hell. We live in a nightmare universe, that even exists. And yes, that does mean that
Shut up, best timeline. Prove me wrong, pro tip you can't.
There are people on the planet Earth who are employed to farm behavior score in a video game. Hey, who's to say the economy doesn't produce legitimate, good, useful value for folks who need it? Oh boy. Okay, so obviously this stuff could just be delivered as a part of a ban wave, right? There could be 90,000 people gone and a few pros also get gone. Or you could be Valve, which probably means you're, you know, a little bit rebellious and also have got a sense of humor. So, if you've ever smurfed or engaged in terms of service breaking behavior of any kind, then your gift won't have any cosmetics in it. You'll open your gift and you will actually find a ban. There will be a ban in your gift and it will put some coal in your inventory. This led
the toxic lump of coal, yeah, I already know about that.
To this incredible clip of Mason being surprised as streamer with a ban live on camera after he opened what he thought was his free gift.
Highly
he then went
toxic
to
lump
post
of
a
coal.
lengthy explanation and a request for clemency. Of course, that fun old phrase, if you've not done anything wrong, you've got nothing to fear, that does crop up, and obviously that's the sort of thing that you can see some silly people use.
Now, the problem with that is, if it's an automated system, it's always going to actually get a couple of people who don't really deserve it. That's the problem. That's the problem with this kind of, right?
You know, out of context, where maybe there are some
Rank 1000 for not even top 1000, bro. Are you even trying?
things that should or should not happen on a more fundamental level. It's the sort of idea that people are like, well, you know, if you don't do anything bad, you don't have anything to worry about. Well, a lot of people would also say it's better that 10 guilty people walk free so that one innocent person doesn't get wrongfully imprisoned.
Yeah, by the way, I'm completely against that.
But of course, this mostly is talking about Dota. So I don't really think we need to get into the sort of more societal application of these concepts. But for everybody else, right, we just got to keep in mind the tone that Valve chose to take with their post here. So we'd like to wish everybody a happy Frostivus festival, except Smurf accounts, who we assume will not enjoy the update as they choke on their richly deserved coal-flavored just desserts. Damn. Okay. Well, you know what? That's
Nice.
That's pretty damn fun. There's a phrase sometimes that basically comes down to sometimes you gotta fire your customers. Because you could have some customers who are so much of a pain in the arse that they're quite frankly not worth the trouble. And you could spend that effort on customers who are, you know, worth the trouble. Perhaps Valve have somewhat realized that themselves. It's probably quite frustrating. You can imagine running a game like this. You almost certainly have got a situation where the majority of the problems you've got to deal with are from the minority of players who are just being absolute lemons with how they do things. Next then, and altogether more serious in this story, we've got Activision settling with California. Yeah, this whole saga with the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which now actually, by the way, is called the California Civil Rights Department. Obviously, they filed that lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. That is the one that basically cracked open the entire story, led to years and years of discussion. It fundamentally changed the company, right? It led to the likes of J. Allen Brack being gone, Alex Frasiabi on the Warcraft team being gone. He was one of the people actually named in that lawsuit. The formation of the ABK Workers Alliance and a whole bunch of things, including...
Man, when the weak get their way, they just ruin everything.
Microsoft buying them. Because that's the other side of things. We may have just taken it for granted, but I think we...
Hot take. If you're weak enough that someone is abusing you, you don't deserve a way out. Enjoy your weakness, bitch. Because when the weak... The only good thing the weak have done in their lives, and it's not actually a good thing, it's only good for them, is they have bundled up and created the world a worse place for everyone else. This is always what happens when the weak get power, because the weak will use their power to implore things on other people that puts them down to their level. When the weak get power, it's not pushing up the level of society, it's pushing the level of society down.
We all know, if they were not put in this situation, chances are the board would have felt strong enough that it could just keep on going on its own steam. Obviously, they felt very embarrassed.
You know why Rome collapsed, by the way? They were doing great when they were sacrificing and putting the weak children out in forests for them to get what they deserve. You know when Rome collapsed? When the weak got into power and started creating laws that benefited the weak. Coincidentally, that's when Rome collapsed. Wow. With a huge wave of feminism and, degenerate stuff, by the way. Yeah.
And whenever Microsoft came up with a big bag of cash, they said, okay, we will take your bag of cash. So here's what's happened. The New York Times has reported that the inciting lawsuit has actually been withdrawn as a part of a settlement. And that's generally how it works with settlements, right? Sort of the way that things go. So the latter will pay $54 million, with $47 million of those dollars being set aside to address claims of pay disparity and promotion discrimination for female staff. In addition to this, then, the settlement resulted in the following...
Dude, that's so bullshit, though. It only can happen in a place like California, right? Unjustly paid? You're telling me that's already illegal. How did they manage to do that? That seems so bullshit.
Statements. So settlement statements are all, they're always quite fun. So let's read into it. In this agreement, the California Civil Rights Department and Activision Blizzard said that no court or independent investigation has substantiated any allegations about systemic or widespread sexual harassment at Activision Blizzard. The settlements also said an investigation had not found any evidence of wrongdoing by the Activision board, its executives, or its chief executive, Robert Kotick. But obviously, one
Bobby!
Think, that's interesting.
Legend.
If nothing happened, why are they paying all of that money? So typically the way...
I can actually answer that question pretty simply, because paying that money is far more easier than actually spending all that time or doing other stuff. That's the reality of these settlements, by the way. There are companies, giant companies, that will get hit with shit like this, and they're gonna be like, let's just settle. It doesn't matter that we're not guilty. It doesn't matter that none of this is provable. It's just easier for the companies to settle, okay? That's how it is. That's the most simplest thing, If everyone in Blizzard was, because you need to understand what the word widespread means, okay? If it was actually widespread at Blizzard, yeah, Blizzard would be just completely gone as a company, because that would mean that most of the people at Blizzard get fired. And the idea that, again, women in California are getting paid less than their male counterparts, it's just, again, bullshit. Okay? It's very widely known that a woman goes into a job interview, they just don't ask for higher payment. Men do. Okay?
way that things go with these settlements is to try to get everything aligned and done and over with so that both parties basically don't have to bother going through a very long drawn-out court battle.
Yep.
That's basically often how these things end up going. You could fight your corner, and who knows who will win or who will lose, or, yeah, you just spend some money, solve the problem right now.
No, winning is just not worth it. Winning just takes too much time.
Which obviously, for a very large company, yeah, you can just go and do that. So to analyze this then, from the Civil Rights Department, they essentially were able to win something for the affected staff here, because that money is going to the staff, right? It's not just going...
That staff will never work in that industry again, so I hope it was fucking worth it, by the way. Yeah, because this staff is not working in this industry again.
Going to California.
There's reasons why. There are reasons why people in high position, well, in not the highest positions, but there are reasons why some people leave jobs who have pretty decent, pretty respectable positions, choose to not take, their benefit payments and whatnot. Yeah, it's life.
So, basically, right, that $47 million, that is more than double the $18 million that the federal, okay, so this is state versus federal, that the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission were able to get in 2022. For Activision, then, obviously the benefit that they get here is they get to be very magnanimous about the whole thing. They basically get a clean bill of health that refutes the idea of systemic complaints with a specific and agreed wording. So you can essentially see here that both parties agree and get something that they want. For that department, money is given.
What he is essentially saying here in a very convoluted way is, the guys who sued Activision Blizzard all get to pat themselves on the back and say we won because they settled and they gave us money, and that's what it all is all about at the end of the day in these situations from the government side. And Blizzard gets to pat themselves on the back and say we won, nothing was proven, we just paid a little bit of money because this was annoying. Everyone wins! Yeah, I know, stupid, right?
Given to the people. For Activision, they make their problem go away, and the cost of them making the problem go away is that they have to give $47 million out to people who either maybe
first of all, this is... I haven't read this, but I already will tell you how this is actually going to happen. It's not even 47 million. This is going to be for up to 47 million, and then people need to apply most likely to get these benefits if they feel that they're wronged, and someone's going to check over did they actually get wrong. So this is not even going to be near 47 mil at the end of the day for Activision Blizzard to pay up.
Still work for them or used to work for them. The thing you've really got to be precise about here with a settlement statement is the specific wording, because it doesn't say that none of this, it doesn't say things didn't happen. No, it specifically says that the allegations were not substantiated. Didn't say that they were false. That's the way that these things work.
Yep.
Of course, this obviously times out very nicely, though. Microsoft are now the overarching controller of Activision. So for them, this basically just means a new start. I obviously do not have any expertise in this area. A little bit of me does wonder, with the change in ownership, all these things that have happened, is that maybe why the California Civil Rights Department was a little bit more willing to just accept the settlement deal, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe they felt that that's kind of the best that they could get out of the situation. I mean, I'm not necessarily sure. I'd love to know what your opinion is, especially if you're a legal expert. I mean, hey, I know there's a lot of Californians, and from my experience being to America, the first thing that happens when you land in America is you see billboards for lawyers and suing, because, yeah, it turns out the jokes are actually true. Overall, probably not going to see that much impact here. Bobby Kotick, of course, is most likely going to get to open up his golden parachute and float off to be a problem somewhere else.
Dude, Microsoft at some point is going to understand that the only reason Blizzard even is being held together is by the magnificent, majestic glue that is Bobby Kotick himself. Big D, Bobby Biggers D. Oh yeah. Our boy, the devil. He knows what's up. Activision is gonna beg Bobby to come back to and take over Blizzard. My boy is never done. He is a true G. He is an OG, in fact, okay? He runs Blizzard. No matter what happens, he's gonna be the shadow boss. It's inevitable.
I did see a story floating around that apparently, like, there's some stuff with a football club, which actually is what Peter Moore of Electronic Arts did. But yeah, absolutely no idea if Bobby's going to do that. But I'm sure we all wait with bated breath to see what the Bobster does next. Okay, let's talk about Xbox missing their chance. Here's the deal with Game Pass. It's really, man, Game Pass is so goddamn fascinating. It's a sort of interesting game of chicken. Now, if you're an indie company, the thing that you can basically value is money now, because if you're an indie company, you're honestly, unless you are a very, very rare, like, top 10th percent.
The hell is happening here? Hello? You saw that? It was a little bit of lag. What's happening there? Oh no, is my internet dead? No chance.
Success, or perhaps, maybe you're a top 20th, this is napkin math, 20th percentile success, but have absurdly low running costs.
This is not good.
In those situations, you can just kind of run off your royalties. But for most companies, it doesn't really...
I'm scared. I'm feeling the scariness of the situation. Let's go, lower quality. That's not good.
Really
That's not good.
Okay, so what they basically need to do is secure...
Yeah, now it's normal. What the hell?
Months of dependable runway. Any royalties they get from their game, that is just nice to have. Okay, so that's why quite a lot of indies, they will go for the cash that they actually sort of know and can predict, because then they can plan their next game. And that means they all have jobs and they don't have to deal with a hell of a lot of risk. So from the indie perspective, that's just one of the ways where Game Pass can work out quite well. Obviously for Microsoft, they're making a bet that they get their KPIs to go up in a cost-effective manner. But of course, ideally, it's a situation where Microsoft gets what they want, but for the indie, it is a meaningful enough amount of money for it to be worthwhile. Now, Baldur's Gate 3, would you...
How does that tie to KPI?
Viewer described Baldur's Gate 3 as, quote, second-run Stadia PC RPG, expected partner range, $5 million. Now, by the way, this is from, funny enough, the FTC versus Xbox case, where there was a big ol' leak of internal dealings, especially around Game Pass acquisitions. So this is what they thought late 22, early 2023 about Baldur's Gate 3. Now, at the time, some would say that it would have been hard to foresee that a pretty nerdy CRPG, because it's not all bros and AKs in Baldur's Gate, right? People wouldn't have thought generally that would have been like, big game of the year to the degree that it has been. I think most people thought probably a lot more charitably about it than Microsoft did, certainly though. But anyway, the monumental success of this game even surprised Larian, to be fair. But in a new interview with IGN, they revealed that Xbox totally missed the boat. Obviously, PlayStation is probably as well. But their CEO basically said that they never wanted to put the game on Game Pass or anywhere else, and that hasn't changed. Quote, we made a big game, so I think there's a fair price to be paid, and I think that's okay. We don't charge you any microtransactions on top of it, so you get what you pay for. Up front, it's a big, meaty game, so I think that should be able to exist as it is. This is what allows us to continue making other games. Now, that's where it kind of gets fun, because, again, think about the, they called it medium priority, expected partner range, $5 million. A lot more money than that. A lot more successful. So, evidently, even though Larian, I think, were surprised by how successful the game was, definitely the case that it was underestimated by...
So what's our estimate for Baldur's Gate, by the way? Maybe 1 million people bought it for $50? Yeah, that's 50 mil. That's way more successful than 5 mil.
The industry at large, to the point where any potential deals with, say, Microsoft just did not make sense. And I suppose another part of it, we've seen something rather interesting with Game Pass. They're quite doubling down, actually, on grand strategy games, co-op games, and obviously first-party titles. And this is actually all games where, beyond just the Game Pass bit, there is a secondary market. There's an incentive for Xbox players to buy DLCs, or perhaps to buy expansions, or maybe to buy that premium edition so they can get their 4 days early access. Oh, I love the industry. Yeah, so quite interesting then. These deals can be lucrative, but obviously if it's something like Baldur's Gate 3, where we're still at a stage where 50% of owners haven't even finished the first act of the game, which is fair. It's a big bloody game. This is obviously the kind of game where, given its fair market value right now...
50% of players haven't finished Act 1? That's actually astonishingly high for a finish rate, yo. That is crazy. I wouldn't expect even 20% of the player base finishing Act 1, honestly. The absolute vast majority of people don't finish whatever Act 1 is in any game that they try. The reality is, you buy a game, you maybe play it for a couple of hours one day, a couple of hours the next day, you know, and then it just tapers off. Yeah, 50% finishing Act 1, that's crazy.
Now, I have no idea how much money Microsoft would have to pony up for that to actually be a good deal for Larian, but I think we can all guarantee it would be an insane amount of money. Next, then, we do have an update. A pretty sad situation, actually. A studio called Mimimi released a video game. That video game is called Shadow Gambit. Here's the deal. It's a really good game. It was really, really well
that just looks like Commando. Shut the fuck up.
received. But here's the problem. The game, it launched well, right? They were very proud of it. It got really positive reviews. They planned for 2 DLC expansions. But here's the problem. They simply did not have the capacity to start another full multi-year game project. To do so would basically be inviting burnout. It would make...
I'm not gonna lie, this kind of bores me. Anyway, that was Billiard News. Pretty interesting stuff. Baldur's Gate, Activision, and not Blizzard, but Valve doing stuff. Nice. I wonder if they're gonna do the same thing to the CSGO community. That would be questionable. Probably not. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sensen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.